Hi everyone, it's Neve here for the ScrapFX YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a UK travel journal and decorating up with the newest release from ScrapFX. So I'm just starting off with my flag design, and I'm using 3 pieces of cardboard that scrapbooking paper that I found that had similar colours to the UK flag. I've just drawn out a rough cross shape and then done my diagonals, and I haven't measured any of this. I've sort of done it mostly by sight. You can kind of see some guidelines there. I drew them in a white Stabilo pencil, particularly just to cut out these triangles, which is the base. And once I've cut this out, that will help me cut out the red that needs to go on here too. So I'm just sort of layering it all up. In the background, I've made my journal page already. I've used some of the chipboard from ScrapFX and cut them to the size of my journal that I'm going to adhere in here. And then I have just used some washi tape to make the spine. Now, I should have made the spine slightly bigger. I thought I'd left enough room, but when I put my journal in, it's still a bit tight. So always err on the side of being a little bit bigger when you're doing your spine between your 2 front covers, because it does help out in the end. So when I'd finished cutting out the white, I then started out with the red, and again just used the white as my guide, and now I'm just going in and cutting out those little diagonal pieces. That's because the red is slightly smaller and it needs to be cut down. But one thing I did learn very quickly I needed to do was label where those diagonal pieces had come out of, because I was going to need to trim those down more and then reassemble the jigsaw. So again, I'm doing most of this by sight. I am using some of the guidelines from my board to help me out somewhat, but there was no real measurement happening here, so just go with the flow. And again, I don't think the flag police are going to come and check out to make sure it's absolutely perfect. They may do one day, but they haven't as yet. Please excuse my head in the way. When I'm cutting out using my knife, I sort of need to get right over the top of it. So you'll see as I'm going along, I'm sort of lining everything up to make sure that I'm happy with where it's going, and you can see here I'm trying to work out where the pieces are going. So again, because this is an American board with American measurements, I think it's like 1/4 of an inch I'm taking off, or 1/8 of an inch. I need to work in metric usually, but I'm being consistent around both sides. And it's coming up with some really odd looking diagonals. There was no way I could have cut those correctly if I hadn't cut it in the way that I did. So just be aware that, and you can see me trying to put my jigsaw back together and I have no idea where it's going. I actually mislabeled which was the top and which was the bottom. But I was really pleased with the effect because it's actually looking the way I wanted it to look. So once I sort of got it all figured out, it came up the way I wanted it to. So now all it takes is to glue it all down onto the sheet. So again, just using some glue, making sure it's all lined up and gluing it all together. Once I'd finished this, it was time to put my decorations together, and that's where I came a little bit unstuck, because I had lots of cool things that I wanted to put on here, but they didn't necessarily all work together, which sometimes you just have to step back and think, how am I going to do this? So I've got my front cover down here ready to go, and you can see my cover there that I'm going to glue it onto. Because it had that raw edge and it's really quite thick chipboard, I decided that I was going to cover it with the black permanent marker, just so you didn't see the torn edges. I've put my flag through my Xyron machine, so I've got adhesive over the entire thing, and then just stuck it down onto my board and using a little bit of a scraper tool just to make sure that it's really well adhered. I'm now using the scraper tool to put the bend in, because I couldn't find my bone folder, so this is kind of working the same way. Just so that, because I've got 3 layers of paper, over the spine, just so it didn't tear the spine, so I could get that little bit of a bend in it. And as I was doing it, I realized that I just didn't quite have enough give there, so having a little bit more space between the two pieces of chipboard would have been really, really handy. Before I glue in my book, I'm going to put in some ribbon to tie it together. Again, because I knew it was going to be a little bit tight to close, having the ribbons there to help do that was going to be much much handier than trying to do it afterwards. Because I had a pre-made journal that was going to fill up most of this inside space, it was only going to leave a tiny little gap. I again just used my black marker to go around the edges just to hide it. Now this little journal sketchbooky thing here was a freebie that came with a Flow magazine, which I'm probably never going to use. It's very pretty the way it was, but I thought I'd probably never use it, so I might as well use it for something that I do want to use it for. So hopefully we'll be having a trip to the UK sometime in the near future, possibly. So I thought, why not, you know, get ahead and actually, you know, use it as a bit of an incentive to save up the money and go. I'm just putting in double-sided tape to glue my journal in. Now, you could certainly turn this into a slip cover instead, and again, in hindsight, I wish I'd probably done that, but I can always take that journal out and create it into a slip cover as well, particularly for those people who do travelers notebooks and so on. You could certainly do something similar like this and make it into slip cover. Because I really dislike unfinished edges or white edges showing, I go around everything with my black permanent marker just to make sure it's all finished. So this little silhouette is from Scrap FX, which I really loved on the front of this journal, and again, probably I would have left this on its own, I think, but I love this little map as well, and I couldn't not put that on because it's just so cute. But one thing I knew I needed to do was the text in the middle was getting really lost, so I'm just going in with a pair of scissors and some black paper. I couldn't find any black paper that I wanted, so I just coloured it with my permanent marker because it was out. And I'm just putting some black in the background. Now I could certainly take a pen and just colour that in, but I'm safer doing it this way. If I just put a black pen into the center of it, I would be very likely to go over the map or put a line where I didn't want to do it. So by having it in the background, I just found it worked a lot better for me. So now is all about where I'm going to put these things. So I'm just tying up my journal so I can sort of have a flat surface to work on, using the same glue that I had before to glue this down. And I'll put that into the bottom right hand corner. And then work out where I'm going to put my little map. So I was going to sort of overlap it, then I was going to have it floating, then I was going to have it more overlapped and lose those words. So it was a really hard juggling map to sort of see where I wanted to go. The other thing that I had sort of sitting around was some of these crowns and a little phone box, which I was going to colour up red. But I resisted. Even though I really wanted them to put them on, I just couldn't work out how to put it on without taking away from the cover, because I loved the flag as well. You can see I'm still trying to put on the cover. Then I had these little paper dolls that I thought, oh, I could have those on there too. But I decided very sensibly in the end that less is more, and I was just going to stick with what I had. Oh, well, mostly. The final thing that I did put on was this destination hashtag. So I thought destination United Kingdom, and then I've got the words underneath. Now, just a little word of warning, you'll see me pierce my finger there. Having a craft knife to push those tiny little pieces out is really, really good, but it can be really, really sharp. So just be aware, if you're going to do that, that you don't hit your finger. To tie in with the black at the bottom of my page, I decided I wanted to colour my little hashtag with my black permanent marker as well. and I've just found an extra piece of the chipboard hanging out there, so I just pushed that out, putting down my glue and gluing it on. So this is pretty much the final bit that I do on this little journal. So, and again, trying to find somewhere for that crown. I was really desperate to use that crown somewhere. This is a close-up of the final journal, and it was a really fun one to do, and it certainly got me in the mood to travel. And you could certainly customize this to lots of different things. I know that ScrapFX has got different maps as well. They've got one for Australia that you could do quite easily as well. So check out all their different travel products, which you'll find linked in my description below. And until next time, bye for now.